I'm an NHL player. I only get so many days off in a year, and now I got to fly to Alaska to freeze my you-know-what's off to play a pond hockey game, and this stupid kid is asking me for an autograph? I would have punched him in the face.
Welcome to Hockey and Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to episode number 7 of the Hockey and Podcast. I'm your host, Jay. As always, I'm here with my lovely, intelligent, beautiful co-host, Jen. Jen, say hello to the people today, and how are you doing?
Hello to the people today, and I'm doing very well. I'm in a good mood. I'm always in a good mood for the most part.
So you're ready to go? You're ready? We got some pretty fun topics we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I'm amazed that I got as much information for the second half of our podcast as I did. And we'll talk about why later. Yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's do this thing.
Just to let the people know what they can expect from episode 7, in the very first segment, we're going to talk about Zdeno Chara. His number was retired by the Boston Bruins.
Yeah.
We got to talk about it because it's a big, big moment in hockey as well as for the Bruins. So that's segment number 1.
I'm sure everybody is sick to death of me posting like crazy about it. But guess what? Chara is one of my favorites, so I'm going to post whatever I want.
Segment number 2, Jen.
Oh, yes.
We decided that we wanted to look at every hockey movie that was ever made at some point. And we're going to watch the movie. And then we're going to go through some basic thoughts that we have, what we thought of the movie, the characters, all that stuff. And today's movie that we're going to review is what?
Mystery Alaska. Side note, if anybody knows where on earth we can stream Youngblood, the original Youngblood from the 80s, give us a shout, because we can't find it anywhere. We can't find it to buy, nothing. I'd rather not have to do the Blu-ray thing. I mean, you can get it, there, but in any case. So we're going to be going over Mystery Alaska and the ridiculousness that is that movie.
Okay, you used the word ridiculousness. I have other words for it.
It's so bad it's good. So bad it's good.
But that's what we'll be talking about today.
Yes, sir.
That and a whole lot more on episode 7 of the Hockey and Podcast. But Jen, before we get into our first segment,
let's do the thing.
Did you see the news that Linus Ullmark is now back with his team and back on the ice during practice?
Yes, I did. And he's been with his teammates on the ice practicing. He's not out there alone doing all of this stuff. It doesn't look to me as though people want him off the team. So
the team was pretty upset. I should say the organization was pretty upset by what they were seeing on social media. They put out a post that basically said what he is going through is a personal matter, and what we're hearing from these trolls on the internet is something that is not true.
Somebody should get in trouble, whether or not they will, it remains to be seen.
As we said when we reported on this in our last episode, we didn't put any backing to it. We said whoever it is that put it out there, they put it on a burner account, and then they deleted that account.
Oh, did they? I didn't realize they deleted it.
And then, unfortunately, this story just took off like wildfire because that's what the internet does today. It just loves to regurgitate the crap that is unfounded because they want clicks. We said, and we want to reiterate this point, we did not believe it. We just wanted to report on it.
Right.
When it comes to personal matters, like you said, that shouldn't be something that is reported on in the media because his life, your life, my life is private.
Well, let's just put it, it was not the media that did it. It was some rando that put it up there. And then, of course, after it got the traction it did, then, the news organizations started reporting on it because it gained a lot of traction. It's sad.
It's very sad because Linus Ullmark, we had him in Boston for a number of years. We loved him. We'd love to have him back.
We don't know anything about his personal life, though.
We do not.
And that's the way it should be.
That's it. So he's back on the ice. Looks like he's getting ready to start playing games again. And you know what? I hope he comes out of the gate a little bit pissed off. And I hope that he puts a string of wins together for the Senators, because he is a stand-up guy. He's a great goaltender. We loved him in Boston. Ottawa, embrace him, give him a big hug, and let him know that he's part of your team. So there you go. We just wanted to bring that out real quick. Jen, we're going to jump right into our first segment, and it is the Boston Bruins.
Let's do it.
Zdeno Chara's number 33 from the TD Bank North rafters, and there was a ceremony to go with it.
There was.
I want to start this, before we get into anything about Chara, I just want to get your initial reaction to the ceremony itself. What did you think about that ceremony for Chara that night before the game they played?
I mean, it was boring. That's just me looking at it, but it was terrific. I'm glad they had all of the other guys who were up in the rafters there. That's a huge thing. And to have him up there with them is massive. And this is why I was saying, my thoughts on how Zdeno is so much different than Bergeron, and as a captain couldn't really hold a candle to him, but he also was there for 14 years, something like that. Yeah, but the ceremony, it was a ceremony. It was good. His words were great. I know that when the crowd started chanting "Thank you, Chara," which was beautiful, he got choked up. He said, "I almost cracked." Because he's straight-faced. You could see around his eyes, he was a little teary-eyed here and there, That almost got him when they started chanting, "Thank you, Chara." So I thought it was great. Boring, but great.
The problem with those events are they're very scripted because they have to be. They have to hold to some kind of time constraint because there's a game following that.
It started a lot earlier than I thought, too. I think it must have started at 6. Because you and I didn't get there until about 6:30. And we missed some of the speeches prior, but I think the ones that we really wanted to see, we saw.
One of the things we talked about during that ceremony that I mentioned to you was when you're someone, a sports figure especially, who is respected, who delivers a championship, or maybe doesn't, but is respected for how you play the game or how long you were in Boston, how you played, the city embraces you. They never forget you. You become one of them, even though you're not born there. And that's what happened to Chara. And he even acknowledged that by saying, "We still live in Boston. We're one of you now." He will be one of those players now that when they hoist the next player's number up to the rafters, will be sitting with such greats as Bobby Orr, such greats as Terry O'Reilly.
And I love the fact that he came back and they gave him a one-day contract to be able to retire in September as a Boston Bruin. I love that. I think when guys do that, that's classic. That's where their heart is now. Chara will remain one of my faves for forever. He's just great.
So he is now immortalized in the TD Bank North Boston Garden as one of the greatest players of all time.
Hello.
No one will ever be able to wear the number 33 for the Boston Bruins ever again. Side point, I've often wondered with great teams like, say, the Montreal Canadiens, who I believe have the most numbers retired, what happens when you run out of numbers? Like, let's say 1,000 years from now, what happens? Do they go to, like, weird symbols? Will someone be like, instead of number 18, it's going to be with poop emoji, Jean. I mean, are they going to go to emojis? So that's just my thought. What happens when they run out of numbers? We shall see if we're around that long. Jen, let's get into Zdeno Chara, the player now, okay? So Zdeno Chara, who was better known as Big Z, the letter of the law, or just plain Z to his teammates. He was born on March 18th, 1977, in Czechoslovakia. He then went on to be drafted by the New York Islanders in the 3rd round of the 1996 NHL draft. So he was the 56th overall pick in that year's draft. Now, he did play for the Prince George Cougars as an amateur team before coming up into the NHL. And as far as pro teams go, he played for the Islanders for 5 years, Senators for 4 years, our Boston Bruins for 14 years, and his final year was with the Washington Capitals. He then was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2025, which was this past year.
Why does it say 2021, 2022 New York Islanders again?
Because he went back there for a year. And that's why it's 5 years total with the Islanders. He played 4, then went to the Senators, went to the Bruins, then Islanders, and then Capitals.
Oh, gotcha.
Now, Jem, one of the things that stood out to me was if you read the book on him, what they thought of him back in the day. They basically said, and he was told by many people, that he would never be a good hockey player because of his height.
Which is crazy. I mean, I get it. I would assume it would be a little more difficult because he is so tall. But when we were talking about those ice wars, they were talking about the fighting and all that. And I was thinking 250 for the heavyweights, 250 on skates. Well, that is Chara, but that's also because of his height. The man is just, I mean, he's a beast. He's a beast. So he could definitely, at 250, he could definitely handle himself on the ice. We've seen that time and time again.
Now, he is 6'9" when he's just standing on the ground. Now, if you put him on skates, he's probably around, 7'2" would be my guess?
7'2"-ish,
7'3",
somewhere around there, yeah.
And as you mentioned, 250 pounds. 6'9", 250 pounds, was told he wouldn't be a good hockey player. Zdeno Chara took that, and he used it as fuel to become one of the best defensemen in the game today. Just look at his stats, Jen, from his career, and you tell me, if you didn't know this was Chara's stats, I said, this is a defenseman who played in the NHL. I'm going to give you his stats. You tell me if this was a good career. Played in 1,680 games, where he scored 209 goals. He had 471 assists for 680 points. Not bad. But check this out. His plus minus for his career, meaning he was on the ice, but the other team didn't score as much as his team scored against their team. He was an overall plus 301. 301 plus minus.
That's career.
Career. Which means you have to remember Chara was always on the ice against the best players the other team had to offer, and he comes out on the plus side. That's impressive to me. On top of that, he had 35 game-winning goals in his career. That's impressive to me too. Means he contributed defensively first, but he could help the team offensively. To put the cherry on top, his average time on ice for his career was 23 minutes and 30 seconds. Anything over 20 minutes average is spectacular for a defenseman, especially one that can come out with a plus 301. You want this guy on the ice as much as possible.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Now, lastly, Zdeno Chara became the captain of the Boston Bruins on October 3rd, 2006.
Just 3 months. 3 months.
3 months after signing with the team.
I mean, he must have had leadership qualities immediately. As soon as he walked into that room, he must have just felt like captain material. I mean, they don't do that.
If you look back at the Bruins, let's just say 2005, 2006 teams and teams before that, you've heard me use the word hot garbage, dumpster fire. The Bruins were that back then. They were just no good. They were irrelevant in the NHL, and the Bruins never want to be irrelevant in the NHL. They struggled to make the playoffs. Their teams were just disjointed. They just didn't look like a Bruins team that we all recognize. In walks Zdeno Chara, who says, I know what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. And he put together a plan that is still in place today as far as how the Bruins organization wants that team to function, how they want to practice, what their overall thought process is when it comes to what is a Boston Bruin. He helped shape that for today's game.
Absolutely.
Now, he held that captaincy for 14 straight seasons. It's only the second longest to Ray Bork. Now, Ray Bork had a great career. He had 15 seasons. So it shows you how much that team respected him, because Ray Bork, very respected by Boston and the Boston organization. One of the things that I found interesting was when you talk to players like you mentioned, Patrice Bergeron, they had David Krejci, Mark Recchi was at the event. When they were asked about him, one of the things they said that really spoke to me was he was such a good leader that he expected you to do things, whether it was practice, in the game, in the locker room, on the road, whatever the case may be. But he also was the person that was in the forefront of all that. And that's what a true leader is.
Yeah, he's not going to ask you to do anything he's not doing himself. I miss him.
Patrice Bergeron told a great story before the event. He mentioned that one of the first couple of practices when Zdeno Chara took over as captain that first year, and Bergeron was a young player. Tuukka Rask also mentioned this story too. The story is, one day, Zdeno Chara shows up to practice, and Rask and Bergeron are talking to each other on the ice before the practice starts. He skates over, and he says to both of them, he goes, "We're going hard today," and skates away. Bergeron looks at Rask. Rask looks at Bergeron and goes, "This is practice." Patrice Bergeron proceeds to tell the story that he goes into the corner to get a puck. Here comes Chara, and usually in practice, you back off a little bit. Chara runs him over, puts him on the ice, and you're thinking, okay, it's over, he ran me over. Well, the puck's still in the vicinity. Chara's giving it to him, and Bergeron said, he knocks my helmet sideways, so I'm looking out the ear hole, but he's pinning me down so I can't do anything. And when the play kind of moved on, he gets up and skates away and looks back at him and laughs. While all this is going on, Tuukka Rask is over in net laughing hysterically because he's thinking, hey, this is exactly how I want my defenseman to play. So Bergeron really just told everyone that he worked the hardest out of everybody. And then everybody that saw that wanted to work harder. And that's what a leader does. That's what Chara brought to the Bruins organization. Direction, structure, accountability. That's what you want from a defenseman. When you hear those words, I think back to great defensemen like Scott Stevens of the New Jersey Devils. He demanded respect. He demanded you play hard. And Chara brought that same methodology to the Bruins.
Yes, he did.
Do you have any stories maybe that you found interesting about Chara?
You know, the one thing that kind of stood out to me was just how fit the man is. 250 pounds, 6'9", 35 pull-ups. That's a lot of weight to be pulling up 35 times. So when you look at this guy, yeah, he's tall. Yeah, he's fit, but he is strong, very strong. And then you think about his arm length. There's a reason why people were never really able to touch him. He was able to keep them off of him. I mean, what do they call it? The arm length?
Wingspan.
I mean, that is just something else. So for me, his pull-ups, because 35 is extremely impressive, extremely. So that's one huge thing as far as who he was. And one of the gifts that they gave him during this whole thing was to forward his ambition to be in all of the major marathons. One, I guess, is in Australia. I just think that's so impressive. I'm wondering if he ever did Ironman. I'm going to actually look that up.
Along with those pull-ups, though, like you mentioned, he was a marathon runner. All the players said he trained every season like he was running a marathon and playing in the NHL. The other thing he got in that ceremony, along with that ticket, I guess you could say, to go to the Australia Marathon, the Bruins gave him a hyperbaric chamber to recover in.
Ah, that's incredible, too. They said, what do they call it? And I was like, what? They called it something, and I thought they called it a pod. They said a pod. I'm like, that's kind of weak. They gave him an iPod? And Jay was like, no, that's a hyperbaric chamber. So, yeah, that's very different than than an iPod. I guess it fits. It's got to be huge.
Well, that's what I was going to say is a typical one probably costs an arm and a leg. What does one that needs to be over 7 foot cost?
It's got to be custom built, right?
Got to be custom
Yep.
built. His training was off the chart. His leadership was off the chart. Let's talk about a story.
Let's go back. He did, actually. I was looking at it. He has competed in the Ironman.
That's no small feat.
That's huge. Multiple times. He's a beast. He is just a beast. But go on.
There are so many great moments in his life, in his career. I'm just going to pick one because I think this story is the epitome of how great a player, leader, everything Zdeno Chara was. Jen, in 2019, Bruins had a great season. They went to the Stanley Cup where they played the St. Louis Blues. Now, in Game 4 of that series, Chara took a puck directly to his face, and it fractured his jaw in multiple places. Everybody thought he was done. If that happens to any player in the NHL, I think it's safe to say that, look, they're done for the series. They're hurt. That's a legitimate hurt. I know hockey players play through injury. We're talking a fractured jaw in multiple places. But guess what? He showed up the next day in full gear, ready for practice, and then went on to play the rest of the series. So 3 more games with a fractured jaw. Now, here's what makes this story crazy when you read it. Every doctor consulted said, you should not play, period. Now, when a doctor tells you that, you should listen. I mean, they're medical professionals. On top of that, he could not speak a word. So he had to communicate using handwritten notes. On top of that, when the incident happened, they had to put in multiple metal plates into his jaw that night when that happened. Goes to practice the next day, comes out, plays games 5, 6, and 7 with his jaw wired shut and wearing a face shield.
They said I can't remember who it was. I'm guessing the GM or the coach went in to see him at the hospital. And all he wrote was, I'm playing. I mean, come on. That's classic.
Not only did he inspire his teammates, everyone said when he walked into the room, they were just beyond shocked. But when he came out on the ice for introductions in Game 5, the opponents
Chills.
were beside themselves. The crowd went crazy. At the time, the internet in its infant stages went nuts. The GM of the Boston Bruins, Don Sweeney, said the moment that Chara walked into the room for practice with full gear after his injury, the entire room noticed, stood up straight, and basically applauded him and said that in a weird way, he intimidated his team by his toughness walking in. But it showed them the leadership role that, again, he just preached and he backed up. And then you mentioned how President Cam Seabass Neely, if you recall Seabass in the Jim Carrey movie, goes to see him at the hospital right after his surgery, and he gets the note that simply says, I'm playing. When they interviewed Neely during that game, they asked him, what was your thought process as far as what, you have to make sure this guy is held. You want to take care of him. And he basically looked at the announcers and said, what was I going to do? Tell him no?
Well, if somebody's got that much, somebody's got that much stamina after going through that to say, I'm playing, he's coming out fighting. He's not going to do anything. The Chara's not that kind of guy. He's not going to go in there and be, have a chip on his shoulder. And, if he's not in top peak performance, if he's not there, he's not going to disrupt the game and possibly fail as a Bruin at that particular point. He knew he could do it.
Unfortunately, the Bruins lost in Game 7. If you look at the list of injuries that the Bruins players had during that Stanley Cup final, I mean, Patrice Bergeron, David Pott, there were so many injuries, and they almost won it, especially with their captain having a broken jaw. Now, they didn't win the 2019 Stanley Cup. As we mentioned, the Blues, Jordan Binnington stood on his head. They hoisted the cup. But the Bruins did win the cup in 2011. It was the first cup the Bruins had won, and I think it was about 39 years. And Chara was one of those vital pieces that brought the cup home. And the best part about that whole thing is when you see that image or that video of him lifting the cup, Chara became the tallest captain to ever hoist the cup in history, and that was the highest the Stanley Cup has ever been lifted on NHL ice.
That's just awesome.
Now, we mentioned how intimidating he was. Years back, a reporter asked Bruins players this question, and I found this fascinating. The question was, why doesn't Chara always engage other players in fights when he's confronted by them? The answer that every single player gave to that question was, if he was confronted to fight and took on every single fight that he was basically asked to do, they all said he probably would have killed some of the players he fought. Not intently, but just that he had so much force, he could do major damage, and he understood that, and he knew when it was important to maybe throw a few punches, and when it wasn't, or when it wasn't necessary, or when it would have caused more damage than good. He knew when to fight, and also how to restrain himself, and when not to engage.
He was intentional. He was intentional in the way that he went about his fights on the ice. And he held, you got to know, at certain points, depending on who it was, he held back a lot. He held back a lot. That's a big boy. He could have really done some serious damage, but that's not who he is. You know, he's a kind person. He's a sweet person who just happens to be very good at what he does on the ice and is willing to throw down when it's necessary. But that's the key, when it's necessary.
There's a number of videos where guys are going at him, trying to throw punches and all that, and he's essentially just holding them at bay with one hand.
Yep, he's got the wingspan. That's what I was saying, yep.
He's looking at them like, if I did this, I would plant you in this ice, no problem. But again, the game didn't call for it.
Right.
Maybe the player wasn't up to snubs as far as someone that he should be fighting with. So he was just a smart player. He knew what to do in each situation he was confronted with. The last thing that I'm amazed at when it comes to Zdeno Chara is, as we mentioned, very tall. Now, he plays with one of the longest hockey sticks in the NHL, okay? Zdeno Chara has the hardest shot ever recorded in the NHL. It was at the 2012 NHL All-Star Game competition, the hardest shot, where he shot the puck 108.8 miles an hour. Jen, jump in your car, drive 100 miles an hour down the road just to get a feel for how fast that is. Now condense that into a little rubber disc. Imagine yourself as a goaltender with all the padding there is. There's Zdeno Chara coming in, winding up for a slap shot. How do you stand there and try to block that? I'd go the other way. I mean, the Mighty Ducks movie, right? When one of the bats...
that's exactly what I was just thinking
everybody
of.
dives out of the way.
Oh, please don't kill me.
Hardest shot in NHL history. Do you think that record ever would be broken?
I don't know. I have no idea. What's the next one down? The next one is like
103, 104, 105, somewhere in there. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, there's been a few players who've broken the 100 mark.
I mean, I'm thinking they would have to be as big as him in order to have the amount of power behind them. So it would be doubtful. I think it's doubtful. But we'll see. There's a lot of years left in hockey, so anything's possible. These guys are getting stronger and stronger.
Who comes out that was inspired maybe by Zdeno Chara, who maybe is a taller player? Now, there have been a number of tall NHL players that have since come through, but not as on his level yet. But who's the next one that he inspired maybe that was also told, you're never going to be able to play in the NHL because of your height? Well, Zdeno Chara proved, just like anything in life, with hard work and effort and determination, you could do a lot of stuff. Humans are amazing people when they put their mind to it. And Zdeno Chara is at the top of that mountain as far as people who are amazing, even though they were told, you can't do it. Do you have any closing thoughts on Zdeno Chara?
Just that he's classic. He's classic Boston through and through. He will be one of my favorite Bruins of all time. Definitely. I loved Ray Bourque. I did love Ray Bourque. But for some reason, Chara has just got a big spot in my heart. Big guy. Big guy. He's hard. That's why I'm so curious to see what happens with the captain for Boston whenever they decide on who's going to be next, because he's got some massive, literally and figuratively, some massive shoes to fill. So some massive skates to fill, we shall say.
Just throwing it out there, in your opinion, who's the next Bruins captain?
I don't know. I don't see Pasta being the I can't see it. But I am also not in the locker room. So I don't know, we're not privy to all of this. We don't know who's revving everybody up. But as far as what I'm seeing, there's out on the ice, I haven't noticed anybody that's really taking the lead in that way. I mean, you were talking about McAvoy. I'm thinking McAvoy, Pasta, yeah. But I don't like either one of them for that role. But, there's got to be somebody. So we'll see.
If you're comparing Chara and what he did and expecting them to do that, no, it's a different game now.
It's not going to happen.
Different game.
I know.
So that's why I could see like a Pastrnak. He puts it out there now on the ice. He's really doing the things you need to do, as well as McAvoy. What Chara said as our final thought was he learned from players before him some things to do, but he also changed how things were done. As an example, before him, rookies were treated very harshly in the NHL by their teammates. They were hazed in a roundabout kind of way. Chara walked in, told everybody in the locker room, we're going to treat each other with respect, we're going to support each other, and he did that. He showed that to young players like Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, David Pastrnak, Tuukka Rask, and now look, they flourished. It wasn't the old guard mentality of, you're going to kind of beat on the rookies to make them earn their spot. They're NHL professionals. They've earned their spot. They have to continue to prove it, though, and that's what he really brought out. You got to keep proving yourself that you're a great NHL player. Times then change. You have to adjust how you do things, but you can still keep core elements of what he taught you in today's game. Hard work, determination, respect, you name it. Those are the qualities he preached. When Bergeron took over, he made the captaincy his own in his own way, but still held on to core things that Chara had taught him. And I think that's what's going to continue for a number of years, especially now that Chara's involved with the team. In my opinion, somewhere down the road, Zdeno Chara will be the president of the Boston Bruins.
I hope so. That would be amazing. I'd love that.
Well, there's our little wrap-up on the Zdeno Chara, putting his number in the rafters. He's a Hall of Famer now, had a great career, Stanley Cup winner, along with all the other great stats. And to put the cherry on top, as we said, he was just a great guy, great personality. And to top it off, many people have said, if you confront, you'll see Chara running along the river, riding his bike through the city. He will talk to anybody. He'll talk to you about hockey. You could shake his hand. He's about the people, and that's why Boston embraced him. You know who else is embraced by a lot of people?
Please tell me.
His name is Mark Hill. Mark Hill is embraced by a lot of people in the trading card community because he started a website called My Card Post. Now, My Card Post is a sponsor of this podcast, but you may be asking yourself, what is My Card Post? Do you ever ask yourself that question, Jen? What is My Card Post and why are they a sponsor of this podcast?
You know what? I stay awake at night just wondering this. So please help me get some sleep and give me some answers?
My Card Post is a website where you could go on and buy, sell, and trade for sports cards, for TCG cards, as well as memorabilia and other things. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, okay, well, if you're selling cards on this website, just like some of the big platforms, they take double-digit percentage of your sale.
No.
This is what makes Mark a great person and loved by so many. He's developed a website that if you sell a card, you keep all of your money. The only money he takes from you, is a small subscription fee every month to keep the lights on. That's under $20. That's impressive. When the other fat cat platforms are taking all your money as far as big percentages to sell on their platform, Mark Hill says, no. I'm only going to take enough to keep the lights on and keep the business running. You keep the rest of your money. And you know what? While you're at it, I'm going to add in the extra little wrinkle that you can trade between two people, and I get nothing from that as well. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, this is too good to be true. But I then dare you, go check out my card post. Go check out the great things that are on that site now and the really exciting things that he's going to introduce in the very near future. That's my card post. I believe in the website. I believe in the guy running the website. And that's why I have been pushing this from day one, and why he's been so generous to be a sponsor of 2 podcasts of mine. So go check out my card post. You will not be disappointed. Jen, we're going to move on to segment number 2. And I think we're both excited about this because when we were talking about doing this, this really came together pretty easily. Now, what the thought that we had was, there are many hockey movies out there. We thought to ourselves, hockey is becoming more and more popular in the movie/streaming world, right? Heated Rivalries is taking off like there's no tomorrow.
They redid Youngblood, too.
They are redoing the movie Youngblood, which was the original was with Rob Lowe. Now they're doing a new one, still called Youngblood, but a little bit different scenario. And it looks really cool.
It does. And I like the way they're setting it up. So I'm excited to be watching that at some point soon.
Heated Rivalries, new hockey movies coming out. Oh, let's throw in there Shorzy's kind of a big hit now amongst people for the comedic side of it, but the hockey is grabbing people, which means we're pulling in new fans all the time. Well, Jen, when new fans come in, they obviously have to learn about the game, which we are trying to teach them, which you did a spectacular job in last episode doing so on a couple of subjects. But they're going to be looking for entertainment. And our thought was, why don't we give them, these hockey movies or shows that are out there, a review? Now, the movie that we decided to start with was Mystery Alaska.
Mystery Alaska.
So let's kick things off, Jen, with Mystery Alaska. And why don't we start with, what's the premise of that movie? I'm going to give you the basic synopsis or the movie premise of Mystery Alaska, and then we'll go from there. The premise is Mystery Alaska is a small town in Alaska that is known for their great pond hockey players. Now, someone who lived in Mystery Alaska who left, became a writer, comes back and writes an article for Sports Illustrated about their pond hockey greatness. The NHL sees this and is intrigued by it and decides to have an exhibition game or offer an exhibition game where they will send the New York Rangers to Mystery Alaska to play on a pond hockey game. That's then when he comes back and offers this to them. The premise is this small town, these players are essentially having the opportunity to play the New York Rangers. That's the main story. But within that story is a bunch of little micro stories about relationships of past and present, how small towns operate, politics in small towns. Jen, let's go over first some of the actors and actresses that are in this movie. And it's actually kind of impressive if you look at the list of people who are in this movie. Who's the star of the movie?
Well, there's Russell Crowe. I guess you would consider him the star of the movie. I don't know who a lot of these people are. I know Burt Reynolds is in it.
He is the judge.
He's the judge, and he's got his own weird antics. Then you've got Hank Azaria, and Mary McCormack, Russell Crowe's wife.
Hank Azaria was the writer who left and came back, and interestingly enough, had a relationship in high school with Russell Crowe's wife, Mary McCormack. So little dynamic there. Now, you mentioned also Burt Reynolds. He's the judge in the town. And as we learned, actually played in the NCAA Division IIA. So he played, some pretty serious hockey.
He did. And he happens to be the father of one of the players on the team. And he doesn't believe that his young son, played by Scott Grimes, he doesn't think he's a good player. He doesn't have the respect that one would normally have for their kid playing hockey. So he doesn't believe that he should be on the team, basically, it sounds like. Then you've got Kevin Durant. Then you got Ron Eldard, who plays Skank, one of my favorite characters on this because he's just disgusting. And then Mike Myers and Michael Keane are in the mix too. So there's quite a few. Good-sized celebrities in here. And then Little Richard makes an appearance as well.
Love Little Richard. You also have Colin Meaney, who's been in a bunch of things. You have Lolita Davinovich, who plays his wife. So Colin is the mayor of the town. Lolita is the wife of the mayor, who, as we find out, is having an affair with Skank Martin.
Skank. It's such a fitting name.
It's a fitting name. And then finally, a character that I really do love, it's the actor Maury Chaykin, who plays Bailey Pruitt, who is essentially the lawyer
for the town.
The fat lawyer.
Right.
The small town lawyer.
Yep.
Now, you mentioned Kevin Durant. What I love about his character is in the movie, his name is Tree because he's so big. And we just talked about Zdeno Chara. And I said to you, while this was going on, doesn't he feel like a simple Zdeno Chara? Like he's a country bumpkin Zdeno Chara?
Yeah, and I didn't agree with you. But,
We mentioned about the characters in the movie. So now what we're going to do is let's just kind of go through the movie. We'll start at the beginning, kind of work our way through the important point.
The whole idea of it is that there is a Saturday game. Saturday game is the big deal in Mystery, Alaska. And only the best players in this tiny town get to play in the Saturday game. Now, the way that they're framing this is as though the town is really small. But somehow, even though the town is as small as they're making it seem, somehow we have a whole team. Of course, there's only, I think it was 11 people.
4 per side. So you have 8 people plus 2 goalies. So 4 on 4 with goalie on each side.
But the total number of players, hockey players that they have total, it was 11. So Russell Crowe, the sheriff in the town, and I'm guessing he's supposed to be the captain of the team. And they eventually say, well, you're getting slower. We need to make room and let somebody else come up. So they wind up telling him, we're going to take you off the team. And of course, in a place that is this small, with nothing much to do, being off of the Saturday game is a huge thing. And so he's going to be wrestling with all of this now.
Now, you'll remember the reason why he's getting essentially cut from the team is they tell him, you're getting up in age. You're not really scoring anymore, even though, you play well. And he says there's more to the game than scoring and that and speed. But they bring up Stevie Weeks is skating the river. Now, you remember the opening of that movie shows you Stevie Weeks skating along the long river in Alaska, which is a pretty cool scene. So Stevie Weeks, a young, I believe he's 17 years old in the movie.
He's still in high school.
Yep, is the player that's going to take Russell Crowe out of the big game. Now, the other players on the team, like we mentioned, there's Tree, who's the big guy, Skank Martin. Their best player is the grocery clerk, Connor Banks. Now, I find this actually entertaining because Connor seems to be the big hockey name, right? Connor McDavid, Connor Bedard. Banks, though, has been used in another hockey movie. If you remember, in the Mighty Ducks, the good player that was playing for a rival team that ends up on the Mighty Ducks, his last name was Banks. So I found that funny. And then on top of it, all the sticks they were using in equipment was old school. You're talking metal blades. You're talking wooden sticks. I mean, I don't know these young kids nowadays understand what we used to play with back in the day, but that movie does a good job of showing you in 1999 what equipment was available to not only the people in Mystery Alaska, but to when the Rangers show up as well.
And I know that there was a battle as to whether or not they should even allow this because they did not want to be embarrassed by playing against the Rangers. And we all know that in a real situation, they would have gotten bowled over, like mowed over. That's it. Done deal. But they said there's the plus to having the Rangers come is to, quote unquote, boost the economy. I don't know how you're going to boost the economy of a town that is that tiny, but that's how they fit it all in so that the town says, yes, let's do this.
You recall, though, before that, Connor Banks, their leading scorer, was put on trial. Do you remember why he was put on trial? Remember at the courtroom scene, he was put on trial for doing something. What did he do?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, I guess there was a store, market store or something that was going to be coming in. And I don't remember the guy's name. He was on Laverne Shirley. I can't remember his name. Spinal Tap. But he comes in and he's trying to sell them on this. And Mystery Alaska is supposedly this tiny little town that doesn't want a lot of big corporations coming in. And so our star player gets it in his head to scare him. So he kind of just, shoots a gun and it bounces off, ricochets, and shoots him in the leg. So now they have to go to court. And he's got his trusty lawyer defending him. And that was a whole crazy show to begin with. Jury was involved, of course. And jury in Alaska, in a tiny little town. None of this makes any sense, but hey. The jury basically decided, yeah, we find him innocent of doing anything. He didn't do anything wrong whatsoever. And then on top of that, you need to pay us $43,000 in damages. So I don't know what kind of damages, but, this is small town, so why not?
So they find him innocent, and then they say, we're going to pay you this money. And right away, Russell Crowe in the background says, they can't do that. Then Burt Reynolds kicks in and says, no, this is this isn't a civil suit. It's a
criminal.
Trial for criminal. So he waves away that they got to pay him. He then goes on to say, and this I really found interesting, was he's a guy that you could tell the law means something to him. He's a very proud man. And he sees the stupidity in there. He understands that. I think the lawyer at one point even says, they're not going to convict the leading scorer of our team. At the end of it, Burt Reynolds, after they say he's not guilty, looks at everybody and says, you've made a mockery of our town and of my courtroom. Gets up, walks out. To just drive the point home that this game has become more important than the law at that point in the movie. So Burt Reynolds kind of establishes himself as the voice of reason, I guess we could say, in that movie. when the writer comes back, he presents, hey, the New York Rangers want to come here and play a game. Okay? They then have a town meeting to decide, do we want to play this game? One of the things, and I'm going to go back to Burt Reynolds again, he stands up and he makes this statement: dignity and illusion are something that we hold on to. We should cling to both of those right now. Meaning, the New York Rangers are a professional hockey team. We may be great at what we do here on the ice. We are not an NHL team. So he kind of can foresee not only the issues that are coming, but the other issue that gets brought up later in the movie is everybody else just kind of looks at it as like, hey, this is just a fun game that's going to happen. But then it's brought out, and this is where this statement holds true, is let's say the Rangers come in here and beat us 25-0. You essentially take away our dignity, and the illusion is now gone. And Burt Reynolds knew that very early on and tried to bring that out to people. But the players stand up and they all say, I'll play the Rangers, let's go. And they do. They decide to offer the invitation to the Rangers.
Now, keeping in mind, when they finally do get this going, it gives them a whopping 32 days to get ready. They bring a Zamboni. Zamboni is donated. Okay, so that's one.
The original Zamboni, as pointed out
right.
in the
It's
movie.
that old. It's a mess looking. You got 32 days. The Zamboni, they have to do the rink. They decide to do boards. Now, pond hockey and playing against good boards, two very different animals. And as well as the 4-on-4 that Mystery Alaska is used to playing. That's not how they play. That's not how the Rangers play. So there's so many inequities. You know that this would be horrifying. It would have been awful if this were real. As it turns out, all kinds of things come together and they're able to get this off the ground.
So 32 days, once they hear about this and say, yes, we'll do it, they start to then build a facility. So like you said, they put boards around the pond. That's number one. They build bleacher stands, as well as a media center where, the announcers can stay and they can be warm. They then put a lot of other things. They put a scoreboard up in 32 days. 32 days, they get this done in advance of the Rangers showing up. So when the Rangers do eventually show up, this stuff is ready to go in 30 days, let's say. How come the Italians can't do it in a couple of years?
Hey, they got it done. The tiny little scoreboard, it's so tiny. It's there, though. I mean, it's not that big a deal, but it's just funny. Yeah, 32 days. But after everything that happens in the movie, you got to know by the time that they decide to finally do this and actually get to work, it's not 32 days. They don't have 32 days anymore. It's more like 20 days. It's amazing the kind of things that people can do in 20 days. I'm telling you.
That's it. Maybe next time they let the Mystery Alaska people build the next Olympic rink.
Hey, sounds good.
Now, an interesting thing that happens now in this story, Skank Martin, again, great character, is known for sleeping around with everybody and anybody. That's just what he does.
Skank.
Okay?
Yes.
Now, in the locker room, he proceeds to tell a story of someone that he has relations with and basically calls her a walrus, if you recall. Okay.
So horrible.
Later on, he goes then to this girl's house that he said in the locker room, these mean things that he said, and she invites him in, and as he's walking in, she beats him off the back of the head with a shovel twice, knocking him out. Now, obviously, she mentions as he's on the ground, oh, so I'm a walrus, and knocks him out. Somebody ratted or talked. And the saying that they bring up a couple of times is, what you say in the room, stay in the room. Meaning, whatever's said in the locker room, it's sacred, doesn't go out. Well, somebody talked.
In the locker room.
We learned that it is one of the goaltenders who was with his girlfriend spilled. Now, Jen, there was a punishment that came along with this. Why don't you explain to the people what the punishment was that the goaltender had to do?
I just have to say, ew. So he has to get on the ice in his jockstrap, and he skates full force toward the snowbank, plops down on his back with his legs up in the air, and allows himself to ram into the snowbank, thereby getting his entire lower area stuffed into the snow. I love it. I thought it was great. There's consequences. There are consequences. And so that's why I was saying during it, I said, hey, Allmark, if those rumors had been true, which now we're finding they are not, then Allmark should have been on the ice going toward the snowbank if he had indeed said anything about his teammates. That would have fit.
That would be a fun thing to see. All right, let's move on now with the story. Now, while they're in the locker room and they're, waiting for the Rangers to give their answer, they show an interview on the TV where Barry Melrose, famed NHL coach, as well as commentator, makes the statement, when it comes to this game, this is a joke. And they hear this. Okay? So now they're a little put off that a lot of people are looking at this as a joke. Unfortunately, news comes down that the Rangers are not coming. They filed a grievance with the league. They're not going to do it even though the NHL is telling them to come. But before that is official, there's a court case that has to happen.
Because Mystery Alaska is suing.
No, they're not suing. They were told they could sue. It's the NHL basically said this is a exhibition game and we have the right to put the game on. The Rangers are saying, no, you do not. So that's the court case. But then Burt Reynolds says, listen to the fat lawyer Bailey, hey, maybe you should go there because we need a representation. And on top of that, we have spent a lot of money to get all this together. We need to be compensated for this. So it's kind of a twofold reason why the court case needs to happen. The Rangers don't want to play. The NHL says yes. And now you're talking all the issues with Mystery Alaska. Big Fat Bailey goes to New York.
Goodness.
And, hey, that's what he called himself. Matter of fact, in the courtroom, when he was objected on by something he said, he turns to the judge and says, well, I'm fat. So he brings light to it himself. But now we're in the courtroom. The NHL Players Association lawyer and the NHL's lawyer are arguing back and forth why this should happen. Jen, this is kind of a gripping moment. So the lawyer's there, as well as one of the players, Tree, the big guy, Simple Tree. Both sides give their argument, and now Bailey, the Mystery Alaska lawyer, gets up and starts to give his impassioned speech. Now, you'll recall he starts talking about it's not about the money. It's not about the prestige. It's not about the attention we're going to get. We just love to play hockey. He points to his friend and says he loves to skate. He loves to play, and that's it. And then you notice Bailey starts, there's something wrong. But he continues on. He gives an impassioned speech as to why this game needs to happen, what it means to the town. And guess what happens next?
He grabs his chest.
Has a heart attack.
I forgot that actually happened. I forgot it happened. But yeah, he winds up down. He's down in the middle of the courtroom. Tree comes. Before anything, somebody decides to start doing mouth-to-mouth before checking his pulse or anything. It's very strange.
It was 1999. We didn't know what to do yet.
I forgot. I actually had forgotten how corny the movie was, but hey, it's still fun to watch.
I mean, that was a pretty tearful moment. I mean, he was a loved character, and now he dies defending the town. Jen, here's a point I don't know if many people consider, but I'm going to throw this out to you. You ready for this? The lawyer goes to New York and dies there. Essentially, did Burt Reynolds kill Lawyer Billy?
Pretty much.
Burt Reynolds is the one that said, you need to go there and represent us. So in a roundabout way, Burt Reynolds kills Bailey the lawyer from Mystery Alaska. His death does not go in vain. They end up getting the New York Rangers to play the game. Maybe it's sympathy, maybe it's legal, we don't know.
Even though the Rangers clearly do not want to be there, they are basically forced to be there.
So now the Rangers fly in. Now, one of the things we noticed right off the get-go.
Prior to it, when they were in the courtroom, they said, "We are Hockey Town." Jay and I both looked at each other, and at the same time we said, "No, that's Detroit."
Detroit is the hockey town. Okay, so now they win the court case. Rangers fly into Mystery Alaska. Jen, they fly in on a helicopter. They say 18 players are coming to play this game. When we saw the helicopter that landed, you decided to look up as far as how many people can actually fit in that helicopter. And what did you come up with?
Right. It's a passenger helicopter. The largest capacity for a passenger helicopter is 19 people. Now, we're not talking the Army. The Army is completely different. Totally different machine. It's over 150 people can fit on that. That's not what this was. This was a rinky-dinky, well, I don't want to say rinky-dinky because it clearly wasn't, but it was just your average high-capacity passenger helicopter. 19 people total.
19 people. Now, they told us in the movie there were 18 New York Rangers that were going to play in the game. And then we figured out from there, okay, so maybe the coach is on there too. But most teams have multiple head coaches. Most teams have equipment guys, medical staff, I'm sure PR people, you name it. How in the world did the Rangers get all those people on an 18-passenger helicopter to get them to Mystery Alaska, which, by the way, is in the middle of nowhere? Fun fact, there is no town called Mystery Alaska in real life. But what they did is they took a mining town and built Mystery Alaska town there. They also shot in other areas of Canada. There's a national park, I think, where he's skating the river. That's the national park. But they also have rinks where they shot some stuff in Calgary as well.
Mystery was supposed to have been in South Central Alaska. And just as a side note, in South Central Alaska, the temperatures in the coldest hover somewhere around 0. They don't get down to like 20 below, that kind of stuff. So it's not that kind of cold, but it's pretty cold.
That's still cold.
It's still cold, yeah.
Okay, so the Rangers land in their helicopter, as we said. Now,
let me say this one more thing. With all of this stuff going on, keep in mind, now we've gone to the United States, well, we've come to New York to go through the lawsuit and all of this stuff to try to get Rangers. This is still within the 32 days. So they do all of this. Bailey dies. They bring him back to Mystery Alaska. They bury him all within 32 days. Okay, go for it.
Man, the world must move much quicker in Alaska than it does anywhere else. Okay, so the Rangers land, and they proceed to then start walking off the helicopter, and the whole town's there as well as the people. And a couple of things that jumped out at me was, first, Stevie Weeks, the young superstar to be, is asking for autographs. Now, if you're the New York Rangers, right, as soon as that door opens, if I'm a New York Ranger, I am so mad at every single person that lives in this town that I just want to go out and I want to stomp their team and burn and pillage the city because I'm an NHL player. I only get so many days off in a year, and now I got to fly to Alaska to freeze my you-know-what's off to play a pond hockey game, and this stupid kid is asking me for an autograph? I would have punched him in the face and said, I'm going to kill you on the ice.
Oh, that's so horrible.
But anyway, he's very cordial, and whoever the player is signs it, and that's how it goes. Now, Jen, so the Rangers are there, but there's another issue that's been going on, that's a personal issue in between of all this. So before we get to the game itself, the issue is Russell Crowe and his wife are having difficulties. Two things happen. When he gets cut from the big game because he's too old, he's obviously affected by that. Then to add injury to insult, Hank Azaria, the writer who we mentioned before, who's putting all this together, he used to date his wife back in high school and still pines for her, as we see in the movie. So Russell Crowe picks up on those two things. They kind of give each other, that typical married where I'm mad at you, but I'm not going to tell you why. And then eventually it comes out. Now we flash forward to the Rangers are here and Bailey has died. And the two of them have...
And now they're calling him Dead Bailey instead of Fat Bailey. They're saying Dead Bailey. Okay.
Don't have any kind of physical abnormalities as far as in Mystery Alaska, because that's going to be your name. So if you have a club foot, you're going to be Clubfoot Jed. And then when you die, you'll be Dead Clubfoot Jed. So, okay. So Russell Crowe, Mary McCormick, having Mary, they're just not connecting.
Again, within 32 days.
Of course.
So apparently within the 32 days, their marriage falls apart to
not falls apart, but there's friction.
A lot of strain. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So that, she kind of says, I love the town, this, that, the other thing. They kind of make up. Now it's the night before the game. And Russell Crowe is sitting at the table. And he's basically with the newspaper crossing things out. And she comes in and what are you doing? He hides. And he proceeds to give her the paper and say, just read the words on there. It's an apology in a roundabout way. So the words are things like, lovely, loyal. I don't remember all, but it's building her up. Now, here's the point I want to get to. While this is happening, Russell Crowe then stands behind her, and as she reads, 3 or 4 more words, he backs out from behind her and now is gone. She finishes and says, that was sweet, turns around. He's gone now. Maybe it was 10 seconds that he was gone out of frame. We flash forward to now all of a sudden he's down at the pond skating. So in 18 seconds, he, got down to the pond, he put his skates on, he's, put his heavy coat on, he's skating around. And then she shows up shortly thereafter. That's just one of those movie things that always annoys me is, it kind of doesn't flow right. But here's the best part about it. It shows Russell Crowe skating. Can Russell Crowe really skate?
I mean, he looks like he can stand on the ice, basically. If somebody pushes him, maybe he can, just not fall over. But as far as skating, I don't know if he has skated since. Didn't look too great to me, but...
He looked like someone who had been skating for a few sessions. He can glide around, and he's stable on his skates. He got some training.
Yeah.
But what I love about hockey movies, and there's so many cases of this, is what happens now is, so Russell Crowe is skating around, and his wife comes down, so they flash to her. Now, when they flash back to Russell Crowe, you don't see his face, but you see him from behind, and he's tearing up the ice. He's just skating like an NHL superstar. Then when they flash back to him where you could see his face, it looks like he's holding onto a chair as he kind of goes around. And then they flash back to the guy, and again, he's leaning, doing, cuts on his edges where he's almost touching his head on the ice. And then they come back to Russell Crowe where he skates up to the net, and he's, deep contemplation. Now his wife puts on skates and comes up behind him and proceeds to give him a little push, and he almost falls over. Now, if he's a great skater, I don't know how his wife, who barely can stand on skates, almost knocks him over, or does knock him over.
Right. And this guy's going to go up against the Rangers. That's gonna work out well.
Now, here's the make-up moment. They both then look at each other. They both basically make up at that moment. A kiss happens. She takes off skating, he chases her, and then he proceeds to tackle her into a snowbank where they proceed to make out passionately, which leads you to the idea that maybe something happens. Jen, I want to ask you this question.
Absolutely not. Never.
if I can take you on a pond this year, now I'm not saying Alaska cold, where it's
Absolutely
probably
not.
minus 20 at night.
No,
and they're
there is
laying in a
nothing realistic
snowbank
about
with
that.
light winter coats on,
Absolutely not.
making out.
Not going to happen.
Are you okay with us doing that in a snowbank at, heck, I'll even say regular 20 degrees, and you lay in the snow and I make out with you? You okay with that? Is that passion?
I'm a realist. Think about the reality of all of this. Hello.
All right.
No.
You heard it first here, people. So when you watch these hockey movies like Heated Rivalries and when all this weird stuff happens, you know, or they're making love on the beach and the waves crash over them, people, that's sand in your butt crack. So that's not very romantic. All right, Jen, it's game day now. Right? It's the day comes. And the first thing they show you is they kind of show you little snaps of all the players. And from what I can tell, none of them are sleeping. So they didn't get a good night's sleep the night before, probably the biggest game of their life. Matter of fact, some of them are up early practicing. They're thinking about what they have to do. Now the game starts, and before the game starts, they flash to the announcers. Or I shouldn't say the announcers, the commentators. One of the commentators is Mike Myers, as you mentioned before, and his name in this movie is Donnie Schulzhofer from Flin Flon, Manitoba. Okay, right off the bat, there has never been anybody with that name, but Flin Flon, Manitoba is an actual place where their population is about 5,000 people, and they're a mining town. So shout out to Flin Flon, Manitoba. But I will say, the Mike Myers character, not a very positive view of someone from that town. I didn't really like that character, but we'll talk about that later. Oh, and they do say that his character is NHL legend.
Oh, yes. Yes. And prior to everything, they go and they see they've decided who's going to do the national anthem. And who does the national anthem?
Little Richard.
Little Richard. And they basically say, we have a monumental request. Little Richard is sitting in his tour bus up in the middle of Mystery Alaska. He's sitting in his tour bus, bowled up. Oh, he's got blankets on him. He looks like he's frozen. And he says, "It's cold." That's all he says. And they said, well, then what I've got to ask you is going to be a monumental request. They don't tell us at that point what it is. When he comes out to sing the national anthem, we see the teams are lined up on the ice. Everybody's huddled up. Everybody's trying to stay warm. The lovely Little Richard starts to sing, and he's singing very slowly. And you can see as you're watching the Rangers on the ice, they're moving around. You can tell they're cold. They're not used to this cold. So that was a whole plan just to try to throw them off their game. I'd think that that's cheating, but hey, it's Little Richard. You have Little Richard do his thing.
He sings the U.S. national anthem, and then they start to go skate to warm up. And he starts the Canadian national anthem, which Alaska is not part of Canada, and the Rangers are not a Canadian team, so that's part 2 of the mayor's master plan to help his team get a little advantage. Now, the commentators that are there, the big commentator as far as famous, I guess you could say, is Phil Esposito is one of the commentators. So he's up in the warm booth commentating on the game. All the players come out, and the announcers say that, well, the New York Rangers have 18 players that are playing to Mystery Alaska's 11. So 18 NHL players against 11 pond hockey players. Okay, game starts. Now, one of the things I decided to do is I decided to keep kind of a little stat line based off what the movie told me. So right when the game starts, if you recall, the Rangers jump on them. They actually have, I think it's around 10 plus shots in that opening scene where they're just firing left and right. And you can kind of see everybody's like, oh no, the Rangers are here. They're mad. and they're going to stomp us based off the opening scene. Well, out of nowhere, Jen, a miracle happens. Stevie Weeks intercepts a pass, and he proceeds to take off with his blazing speed, and he scores a goal roughly 2 minutes into the game. Mystery Alaska 1, the New York Rangers 0. Okay, could happen. Could happen.
In reality, I mean, these guys would all be lucky to get out of there alive, but okay, they scored against the Rangers. All right.
The next thing that happens that I found comical was, throughout the movie, Russell Crowe kind of says to Tree, you need to play like a big player, but he's so timid and nice, he just has a hard time. Well, all of a sudden, Tree decides to land a big hit on one of the NHL players, which the whistle blows, and, there's your typical tussle. Tree looks over to the New York Rangers bench and makes the statement that one was too small. Next time, send me a bigger one, the biggest one you've got. Now, this guy is a big guy. He's probably, again, 6'9", 7 foot on skates. We're talking NHL players, and again, when you're talking 1999, there were probably some guys that were specifically just on the Rangers to beat the crap out of people. Well, that doesn't happen. So it's a nice little comical moment where he gets his 2 minutes. Well, from that, Mystery goes on a power play. And guess what, Jen? The guy, their top scorer, who shot somebody and was freed, ends up scoring a power play goal. That's right, Connor Banks scores a power play goal towards the end of the first period, where now Mystery Alaska is up 2-0. They go into the locker room. They're feeling good. They're pumped up. They're looking around, and somebody makes the statement in that locker room, they're not that good, meaning the Rangers. Okay. So that's where we kind of left the first period. They're up 2-0. They're feeling good. They go around. There's a nice little interview where Russell Crowe's kid swears on national TV, and that's funny. Ha, ha, ha. Second period starts, Jen, and guess what? The New York Rangers are really pissed. First scene they show is Stevie Weeks skating along the boards, and one of the Rangers players decides to check him and then put him into the Rangers bench. So he's in there, okay, now the Rangers are pretty pissed off. One of the things they show is the Rangers had figured out, which is very smart, is if their line isn't on the ice, the lines that are sitting waiting to come on are going into the locker room, which is right around the corner, to warm up before they have to come on. So brilliant strategy on whoever the Rangers coach is at that point. The New York Rangers finally wake up. Roughly about 1:50 into the second period, they score the first goal. So now Mystery is leading 2-1. Okay, not bad, not bad. 3 minutes and 23 seconds later, they score another goal. 2-2. Then, roughly about 7 minutes later in this game scenario, the Rangers score a very easy goal where maybe there should have been a penalty call, but doesn't matter. Now it's 3-2. Russell Crowe then at one point in the next scene comes down the ice and gets cross-checked into the net. No penalty is called. What this is showing us is the New York Rangers are mad. They're taking it out on the Mystery Alaskan pond hockey team, and they've come to play. And just to put a little injury to insult, they score a fourth goal at the end of the second period. And, oh, by the way, with about a minute left, they say, hey, we're not done yet. The New York Rangers have a breakaway and proceed to score a fifth goal. So the Rangers scored 5 unanswered goals in the second period to lead at the end of the second period 5-2. Jen, any thoughts on as far as what you saw in the second period, other than the fact that that period felt more like what the real game would have felt like in general?
Right. Hey, the only thing that I've got to say is when they wind up in the locker room, they're like, their strides are getting shorter. They're still on our pond.
They were down, though. When they first came, everyone's got their heads down. Now, Burt Reynolds, I forgot to mention, is the coach now of this team because at first it was Russell Crowe, but when Bailey dies, Russell Crowe talks to Burt Reynolds and says, hey, look, you're in it now because you killed the fat lawyer. So now Burt Reynolds is the coach. He proceeds to come into the locker room, talk to Russell Crowe, and say, hey, look, we're down 5-2. Let's just play safe hockey. Let's not pinch. 5-2 against an NHL team. That's pretty dignified. Well, Russell Crowe, I'm Russell Crowe. You talking to me? I'm not beaten, he said. We're not beaten.
He does the typical...
The inspiration speech. If you could have put him on the horse with blue paint on him, he's Mel Gibson. If you put him in a USA locker room with a bunch of 18-year-old kids, he's Miracle on Ice. It's the typical speech. We're not beaten. Their strides are getting shorter. I'm not beaten.
There you go.
He makes the statement, the New York Rangers didn't skate the river. Now the team's pumped up. Team's pumped. They go out the door. Burt Reynolds goes over to Russell Crowe and said, nice assist, huh? Basically, Burt Reynolds outfoxed Russell Crowe.
So corny. So corny.
So corny, but so good. So
yes.
good. Okay, Jen, third period. This is it. This is where it matters. The New York Rangers, they start off, let me say this. The mystery team puts in now their other goalie because they figure the other guy's gotten peppered enough. So let's put him in. And the first thing that happens right off the bat in the third period is the New York Rangers get a breakaway. And it's their top scorer. His last name is Jackson. Don't know who he is. He proceeds to go in and do a move where he goes from right to left on the net and tries to put it upstairs. Well, the goalie, if you recall, does the great rolling save where he rolls and his legs go up in the air and he stops a New York Ranger from scoring on a breakaway.
Right. Like that's going to happen.
That then inspires the team. They start playing well. And at the 9-minute and 43-second mark of the third period, Mystery Alaska scores their third goal. So grit, effort, now they're coming back. It's now 5-3. Burt Reynolds takes a timeout at the 17-minute and 30-second mark of the game. Now, it's funny because they don't say any of this, but they at least show you from time to time the scoreboard. So I was able to piece all this together. But it's not, necessarily, I don't know if it's 100% correct. But it's in that time frame. Calls a timeout and proceeds to draw up a play for the Mystery Alaska team. Well, Mystery Alaska goes out and they pull the goalie. Now, when this happens, there's roughly about under 2 minutes left. They work the puck around, pass it effectively, and the Rangers can't seem to get it together. And guess what happens? Jen, Russell Crowe scores a goal. He makes it 5-4. The guy who they cut from the big game potentially has gotten them to within one of tying the New York Rangers with roughly about, let's call it 40-something seconds left. 43 seconds. That's exactly the number.
Now, prior to that happening, Skank takes one for the team, let me tell you. And quote unquote, Skank took one in the seeds, meaning he stopped the puck with his body. And the corniest thing about the whole thing is that he looks up into the rafters and he gives the nod to the mayor, whose wife Skank was sleeping with, as to say, this was for you, as an apology. So corny, so corny. But hey.
Does taking a slap shot to your nards even out the fact that he had an adulterous relationship with this guy's wife? So if you're the mayor, are you like, I'm okay with this now?
Not really. I'd be like, you know what? If you wanna do a pull up and let me use you as a punching bag, maybe that'll even up. But one shot to the, I don't know, to the seeds, I'm not sure. I don't think so.
What the movie tells us is they had an encounter or they had an affair a few times. So I'm thinking like at least it should be, if you had, let's just say it happened 6 times, that should be 6 slap shots to the nards.
You know.
At least. There is that, and it's a beautiful scene. And I'm going to say this. You take a shot like that to that area, I don't care if you're wearing protection, you are not coming back in the game. Because the way they posed is it hit him dead straight on from the camera angle they had.
Oh, yeah.
43 seconds left in this exciting game. Mystery Alaska's down a goal. It's 5-4. And again, for some reason, they are able to get another timeout, even though they already used one shortly there before that. So apparently Mystery Alaska has multiple timeouts in this game.
I'm thinking whoever wrote this does not really know hockey, but hey, we're going to go with it. Just a few things.
They missed some stuff. So 43 seconds. Burt Reynolds makes this statement. He says, 43 seconds is an eternity. Live in it, then live in the rest of your lives. Take your moment. Inspirational speech. Number 2, thank you, the Bandit. You know the play that's coming. They have to get the puck to their top scorer, Connor Banks, who should be in jail right about now, but is out skating as a free man and almost got himself $43,000 of compensation for shooting a wheelbarrow that then ricocheted and hit the guy from Spinal Tap in the foot. But he's out there in critical moment to potentially tie the game with the Rangers.
Could they do it? Could they do it?
43 seconds. They say you got to work the puck around, but you got to get it to Connor Banks. Everybody in the building, I shouldn't say building, everyone in the town, everyone watching knows that's what has to happen. So they face off. Mystery Alaska does not put their goalie in, so 6-5. The Rangers win the face-off. They proceed to shoot at the open net from their end. And guess what? They miss just to the left. Now, I guess there's no icing in this game, because they definitely shot it from their zone and it went all the way down, hit the boards. But I guess there's no icing. That's okay. Russell Crowe gets the puck. And at that point, there's probably 30-something seconds left. He then stands behind the net. Now, if you actually do the count from when he picks the puck up to when everything happens, the game ends like 4 times over. But in Hollywood magic, he stands there because, he's in the moment. He's calm, collective. He's not panicking. He tells Stevie Weeks, go up the left side. They then proceed to come out, pass the puck to Stevie Weeks, who the announcer Phil Esposito said, this kid is still flying late into the game. Well, that's because, Phil, he skated the river. None of the Rangers have skated the river, but Stevie Weeks skated the river. They work it into the Rangers zone. Time is just wasting away. You could see it in the background, but they work the puck around to Connor Banks, wide open between the 2 dots in the offensive zone. I'm going to pause there. You've watched enough hockey. Let's just say Connor McDavid is in that situation. What do the Rangers say when coming off of that mysterious timeout? What do you think that the coach would say to everybody on the ice if Connor McDavid...
Cover him.
Everybody just cover him.
Cover him. Get him. Yeah.
Connor Banks was allowed to get wide open about, 20 feet or so away from the net. Nobody in front of him. I think 5 seconds left. He proceeds to wind up a weird-looking slap shot and lets it go, and that's when the slow motion comes. As you're watching this, you're thinking to yourself, they're going to do it. They're going to tie this game up. Mystery Alaska, the guys who play pond hockey, who skated the river, who got hit in the nards during the game, who lost a good friend in a Fat Bailey, the lawyer, who got the Rangers here. They're going to do it. This is their moment. And Jen, the puck hits the crossbar, goes straight up in the air. The goalie is laying on the ice because he tried to slide over to make this up. He's laying on the ice and looks up and catches the puck as it falls gently into his glove, and the buzzer sounds. I've been to many hockey games in my life, NHL, AHL, high school, little kids. I've played in a number of games in my lifetime. I have never seen a goalie slide across to try to make a save where the puck hits it. And I've seen the puck go straight up in the air and come down. I've never seen a goalie look at it so nonchalantly and catch it and then drop the puck and skate off the ice. Almost to say, like, suck it, Trebek, we win. So the final score of the Mystery Alaska New York Rangers game was New York Rangers 5 and Mystery Alaska 4. So they're losers. They're losers, right? They lost. They're losers. But Jen, something magical happens. While everybody's down, the mystery guys all come together and there's a couple of tears. Nobody's saying anything because what do you say to a bunch of pond hockey players who basically almost beat the New York Rangers? What do you say in that moment? Burt Reynolds saves the day. They pan over to Burt Reynolds where he's on the bench. He proceeds to take off his gloves in the minus 20-degree weather and starts to slow clap, which then in turns gets everybody in the audience to then say, hey, this isn't such a bad thing. They start to then cheer on their team. And the piece de resistance is the New York Rangers, who are now standing down the other end, are looking back and proceed to show the ultimate side of respect to that any hockey player does. And they start to tap their sticks like, yeah, good game, good game.
Something magical, I'm telling you. So magical.
If I'm the New York Rangers players, and let's just say that happened, we win 5-4, I'm not standing on the ice watching them do their thing, tap the stick. I'm getting off that dang ice, first and foremost, because I'm freezing. That's number one. Number two, I'm still pissed off that I had to go there. So if I'm a Ranger playing, I'm going to go and I'm going to cause some havoc in the town. I'm going to break things, and I'm going to get out of Dodge. So that's how the game ended. They win 5-4. Mystery loses by 1 goal. Crossbar. You talk about the reality of the game. Let's be honest. Jen, what do you think the final score of that game would have been in real life?
Hey, not for nothing. If you were playing, if this were reality and you were you got 4 goals against the Rangers, that would be flipping amazing. I mean, that just wouldn't. There's nothing about this movie that is feasible whatsoever, but, they should be up celebrating the four goals against the Rangers. That's something.
Well, that's the allure of Mystery Alaska. Now, the closing scenes of the movie is the town's okay. They kind of walked out with their respect. We lost to the Rangers by 1.
Yes.
My reality is that score would have been like something like 68-0.
They would have been very fortunate to have gotten 1 goal. 1 goal. And then as far as, I didn't see any kind of defense. So I'm thinking that the Rangers would have had a lot more than 5 goals against them. But, not in Mystery Alaska.
The closing scene is we find out that Connor Banks, the man who should be in jail for assaulting a Price World rep by shooting him in the foot, is now being rewarded by getting an AHL tryout with, they said in the movie, Binghamton. Here's the funny thing. 1999, you and I were going to Ranger AHL games in Hartford, the Wolfpack. So Connor Banks is going with them, like you said. Oh, by the way, they're taking 17-year-old high school kid, Stevie Weeks, too, who at this point, we haven't seen Stevie Weeks' parents. They're okay with him flying to New York for one thing. Here's another thing. You recall the helicopter that we discussed. 19 people. So the Rangers show up, let's just say with 19 people on the team, so 18 players and the coach. Now all of a sudden they're leaving with 2 more on the helicopter.
And the bizarre thing toward the end is they all of a sudden just decide they're going to take a couple of people from Mystery. They're going to take them, and they take them right then and there. They don't plan anything. It's just they're gone. That's it. They go. Well, hey, you know what? Let's put it like this. Rotten Tomatoes gave this a 36. So we pretty much know what we're dealing with before you even decide to watch the movie. But hey, we had to watch it just for laughs. It's been so long since I watched it. I didn't remember half of the things that happened. It was still great. I enjoyed watching it because you know what? Now, as a hockey fan, and knowing the amount of stuff that I do know, it's insane. It's really bothersome when they write a story that's supposed to be hockey and they get it so wrong. It's just not even close to being real. Everything. I mean, if 4 against 4, how are 4 against 4 going to switch up and play 5 against 5?
They mentioned that in the thing that the NHL game is very different from we play. And they learn it in under 30 days to play it just as good.
It's crazy. It was a cute movie. It was a cute movie. If you don't take it too seriously and you don't expect it to be real, then it's cute. It's fun to watch. Other than that, I could take it or leave it. It was fun. It was fun watching it.
A lot of hockey movies, shows do it. Like, again, Heated Rivalry, you watch that. They try to make the hockey believable, but to the masses, they have to maybe do things in a certain way.
Yeah.
In that game, there were referees. They called, I believe it was 1 penalty, no icing, no one was ever offsides. Okay. I've never seen a game where
Did they even have on the rink itself? I didn't even notice. They didn't have any of the lines.
That's a good point. I didn't notice that. So then why are the referees there then if we're playing pond hockey?
They just had open ice. There were no lines. I have no idea. It was pond hockey with boards. Really weird.
Overall, Jen, though, I agree with you. I think the movie was entertaining. It was fun to watch. It made you realize how bad of a movie it was, but it's good in that it's so bad. So there's that element to it. Jen, couple of questions before we end. Who's your favorite character from that movie?
I think if I had to choose a favorite, and the only reason I'm choosing this as a favorite is because of his name, Skank. I mean, that's it. There really, there's not too much redeeming this movie.
He did have one of the classic lines where he goes and confronts the mayor to say that he basically slept with his wife, where he says there's only 2 things to do in Mystery Alaska, and that's play hockey and fornicate.
Exactly.
Classic line. My favorite character, if you couldn't tell from our explanation of the movie, by far, Burt Reynolds.
I figured.
Right? The bandit. He was the voice of reason in a town that had no reason.
It was interesting. I do remember watching it initially, and I don't remember being this turned off initially when I first watched it. So, and I think you and I probably watched it as soon as it came out. And I don't remember being...
We saw it in the movie theater.
We did?
We did.
I don't remember being this yucked as far as the movie. Because, I don't know, I guess I was younger. It was all fun. And right. But now at my age, I'm like, ew. I agree with the Rotten Tomatoes. 36 is definitely, giving them a little more than they probably deserve.
I think overall the movie was, like you said, entertaining. If you take it as a tongue-in-cheek as far as the real hockey experience, if you know it, yes, I get it's not the real game. But it was overall entertaining. I thought the hockey scenes, there was some cool stuff in there.
You know why it was entertaining? Because you and I made fun of it the whole way through the movie. We entertained ourselves.
One of the things I didn't like is, and it's a character, I cannot stand the Mike Myers character. I'm sorry. In my mind...
Oh, no. I know.
It's insulting in a weird way. That he comes on and plays this vaudeville weirdo character. I've seen a number of NHL announcers of the state. I've seen a number of NHL commentators, announcers, personalities from Canada. Granted, the Canadians have a more unique way that they do things. It's a little more impassioned. But they made him feel too cartoonesque. They made him feel, it felt disrespectful. So I never liked that part of it. And then on top of it, as we mentioned, the Rangers would have just stomped them. I don't care how bad take today's Rangers team, even how bad they are.
Yeah.
They would have just stomped these guys just out of spite alone. All right, Jen, we know that Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 36. But I want you and myself to give this movie our grade. So we're going to give it a letter grade, just like in school. What would you give this movie as far as your overall grade? What's your grade for this movie?
Okay, so I'll be honest. I kind of hated the movie. I would give it a D minus. However, I think it is worth a watch, knowing that it's going to be a D minus. Because if you watch it with the idea, they don't market it as being a joke. But if you watch it as it being a joke, it can be somewhat entertaining. So I think, I personally think that any hockey movie that is out there should be watched. If you're a hockey fan, you should watch the hockey movie. Again, do not watch this movie thinking that it's going to be good. It is not good. It is very bad. It is poorly written. But it is fun and it's funny. It's not, I don't think they really meant it to be funny, but it is very funny. There's so many things about it that make zero sense. So I give it a D minus, but I still say it's worth a watch.
They did market it as a drama/comedy.
They did. Okay. What about you?
I agree with a lot of the things you're saying. As far as a grade, I'd be more of I think a C minus. Reason being is I thought Russell Crowe was pretty good as an actor. Mary McCormick, I thought, did a good job. Hank Azaria.
Hey, the actors themselves are great.
Pretty decent. The storyline itself, great concept, right? Bunch of guys out in the middle of nowhere take on the Rangers.
Is it really?
It is. It's an underdog story.
I get that.
Everybody loves an underdog story. This is just a far-fetched underdog story. So there's that element as well. The hockey representation, below average. We're real hockey fans. We understand. But to your average person, it's going to be entertaining. It's going to hold up a little bit as far as the play goes. And the score of the game, I don't know about that. But the more interesting thing, I think, was the interaction of the town, the different storylines that went on. Again, this is what a small town is like. Everybody knows everybody's business. I'm sure everybody's sleeping with everybody else because there's only so much stock out there that this stuff happens.
Stock. Yes. Okay.
As far as a lot of the other things that we pointed out that are kind of hard to swallow, and to throw in, Mike Myers, terrible character, but also Burt Reynolds, great character. So that's why I gave it a C minus. Again, it's an enjoyable movie. It's a relative feel-good movie. You're down at the end because, oops, they hit the post. But I think that would have been worse if they scored the goal.
One of the honorable mentions that I enjoyed about the movie was when everybody's sitting there. This is when the Rangers are about to come out and take the ice. Everybody's sitting there in the stands to watch this. And again, it's only going to be Mystery Alaska watching this. There's nobody else there. They all sit there and they open up their newspapers. And they all hide behind the newspapers when the Rangers come out, as in saying, we don't even care that you're here. They're going to try to give the Rangers a snub. I liked that. I thought that was cute. I love the extra little gotcha moments in there, but I still stick with my D minus.
If you're the Rangers and you come out and see that, I think that just infuriates you a little bit more. And then you take Stevie Weeks and you put him through one of those boards, and now he's in traction for the next 6 months.
And one of the Mystery Alaska guys was actually able to dump one of the Rangers into the bench. And I'm like, that would never happen. Never. But
when it's Russell Crowe, he was the gladiator. So, Russell Crowe.
This is true.
There it is. We watched Mystery Alaska. It was entertaining. It was comical. Now, just to let everyone know, I personally took 15 pages of notes in my little journal for this movie.
I took 11 pages of notes.
We paused this movie, I can't tell you how many times, to point out things like the helicopter and all these different things. If you go into this movie with that concept that this is the movie as far as, yes, it's a hockey movie, but you need to take it with a grain of salt, it will be entertaining for you. But if you're expecting it to be like a real true-to-life movie, no. Not happening, not at all. So there it is, everybody. There is our movie review, our first one ever of a hockey movie, and it was Mystery Alaska where we both enjoyed it, but there's a lot of Swiss cheese holes as far as the story goes.
The whole reason why we watched Mystery Alaska is because of what I mentioned before. We could not find Youngblood anywhere, the original Youngblood. So
we're going to buy it and we're going to watch it at some point.
We do, yeah, definitely want to do that, and definitely want to watch the new one.
Well, that is our goal. We did say periodically, maybe it's even an off-season thing where we want to watch these hockey movies and do these breakdowns. If you're a hockey fan, kind of talk about the comical, can they make it realistic or not? Or for the new people that are brought in because of heated rivalries, here's another movie you might want to check out.
Well, God forbid somebody watch Mystery Alaska and think that that's what hockey's all about. Because it's not even close.
Well, we're going to end with that, Jen. So episode 7's in the books. We want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you can, check us out. We drop a new episode every single Wednesday on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. And as always, if you can, give us a like, a follow, subscribe. Hit us up with a comment. Let us know, what do you think about Mystery Alaska? Let us know what you think about Zdeno Chara's number being retired in Boston. Or just anything hockey related, or you just want to say hello, or maybe a topic you would like us to discuss. For the Hockey and Podcast, I'm your host, Jay. That's Jen on the other side of the desk. So, Jen, why don't you take us out?
It's freezing today, people. Saturday, it's cold. Stay warm out there. Make good choices. Keep yourself safe. We're out of here.